And welcome everyone to another exciting adventure on Riding Through the Unknown. I'm your host, Michael, and today's guest I want to share with everyone. I had the privilege of meeting, this is the first time we've actually met face to face, however, but she is going to be on Summer Daze Conference on June 13th, which is the second one of Gina Virginia Casella's little set of conferences that she's putting on for everyone. And so I was on the first one, Promise of Spring. And so it is my distinct honor and pleasure to present to you all one of the upcoming speakers, the one, the only experiencer extraordinaire, Missy Hill.
Thank you so much, Michael, for that introduction. I love that. It was great. I love
You're
your music
welcome.
beginning. Yeah, that was great.
Thank you. That comes from my cousin. He did my intro.
Oh, he did a great job with that.
Yes, and so why don't you take a moment and share with the audience a little bit about you and what you're about?
Okay, where do I start? I usually always start with my, part of this I'm going to talk about on Gina's conference, but I always start about the day that changed my life. I mean, there was many days, but there was the certain day that stands out, the day that I decided that I was going to go to truck driving school and be an over-the-road truck driver.
I gotta say I am loving that because you don't hear about a lot of truck drivers that are like, I'm excited, I get to do this and do that, and a lot of them are like, yeah, I travel, but I don't get to do anything fun with it.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Well, it did get to be a little bit rough and a little bit not so fun, but the day that it happened, I was actually camped out because my husband was a truck driver and worked for a company called Holox in, we were in Winder, Georgia at the time, actually staying at a campground called Fort Yargo. And he was delivering, in a tanker, liquid gases like liquid oxygen, nitrogen, argon, things like that. So the oxygen would go to hospitals, the nitrogen, they use nitrogen for a lot of things that they have to pack things with nitrogen. And there was a day that I was just playing with the Rand McNally map because this was like, what year was this? 2000. Okay, so I have the old Rand McNally map, playing with the Rand McNally map with my pendulum. I'm kind of just going like what I'm wearing around my neck, looking at the four corners, looking at the United States, looking at where I-40, the corridor of, Utah, Colorado, Arizona, New Mexico. And I kind of heard an audible voice and inside my head at the same time, you are going to go over the road and do grid work. And then I happened to go outside with my cat Soda at the time, who was the predecessor to Arthur, his partner in crime, but she's on the other side, the female version of who you just saw. Her and I were outside and took a hike, and I saw this man who was wearing the glove and doing falconry. He had the falcon or the hawk flying around, and then I'm kind of like getting the idea, what am I being shown here? This is like me getting a bird's eye view of looking down at these grids on the, of the United States. And when we did that whole thing, both of us, Ron and I, have both been to 48 states. All four, well, actually, the only state we haven't been to is Alaska. And the only state that Soda didn't get to was Vermont, because when we went to Maine, we didn't go through Vermont, but my husband had been to Vermont before, and so have I. So we've all been to the continental United States, Puerto Rico, and Hawaii. The only place we haven't been, both of us, is Alaska, but I never made it to the island of Kauai. So that started it for me. I mean, I was into spiritual things, different types of spiritual things before that. I go back as a kid it would be more into like the paranormal with ghosts and things like that, and then the whole UFO connection. But that day was like a thing of understanding what grid work was, and that my template, is an indigo type 1 of the Emerald Order primarily. Not that we're not all everything, and these labels don't even mean anything really. They're just sort of for some kind of context. But I just knew that that was going to be an important part of my life, that when I was going to show up on certain, landscapes, land masses, I was going to get like downloads, instant remote viewing capabilities of being able to see the storyline of different things that have gone on. That's why I kind of also label myself as like the paranormal historian, galactic shaman in a way, if you will, if you have to label yourself something.
Right. Well, yeah, that's very true. And one thing I'm kind of curious about is being the truck driver. Did you? I know you were talking about doing grid work, and and that's really interesting and fascinating too. But I'm also curious, like if you had to say go make a delivery run to Arizona, did you go, okay, where's all these paranormal hotspots or places along the way, and can I stop there, or were you one
No,
of those
not
direct?
not initially, because the whole thing was, it was, here I am doing this, and it's actually pretty overwhelming for the type of personality that I have, because I went to truck driving school. I passed. I feel like I passed by the skin of my teeth, because I really never wanted to back that truck up. I always had my husband do it. I just never felt really comfortable backing it up into loading docks, if I didn't have to do it. So I would drive, and then when they wanted us as a team driver, we did that for about a year or so. And then after that, it was kind of more like he did the driving and I was riding, because they want the wheels to go like 20 hours a day. And I couldn't sleep. I didn't know when I did it, I was not going to be able to sleep when the truck was moving. And I would have weird experiences of one time in Vegas, I was at a Petro, uh, we were fueling up with diesel fuel, always remembering I put diesel fuel in a truck, and you don't put gas in a truck. I'm
No.
sitting there having a meltdown because I'm feeling like something is looking out my eyes. I'm actually feeling very insectoidish. I'm looking at my hands and the way they're moving and the way my consciousness was, and I'm having a meltdown because I couldn't sleep. And it's not healthy. I still think about this today. Are these truck drivers getting good sleep, or are they not getting good sleep, and good exercise and food? So there's a whole thing. So it wasn't all fun and games. That wasn't it. But as far as the paranormal hotspots, you begin to learn where there are places that are of interest. Like when you say Arizona, going through Arizona, what do I think of first besides standing on the corner of Winslow, Arizona? The song, I think
Yeah.
of Meteor Crater, because Meteor Crater is like, I mean, totally amazing to go there. That's a place where they possibly, Stanley Kubrick and his crew could have possibly filmed the moon landings. That's the way it looks. It looks like Mars. So when you go there, that's the first thing you think, like, oh my God, everybody says, the moon landings are fake. I mean, look at the moon landings. I don't want to necessarily go down that whole thing, but look at the pictures and look at Meteor Crater, and it could have been filmed there. It really could have. It is so quiet that it becomes loud. And what did I do with that meteor? Because I had a piece of meteor. Oh, that a friend gifted me. This type of meteor is just like what is in Arizona, and it's heavy. This thing's heavy. It is tiny, but it's so heavy. So when you go there, it's amazing. And what's interesting too, I remember there was like the first thing we noticed, there was like this plastic alien looking out this window. So here we are pulling into the parking lot, and there's a plastic alien there. And Soda used to, and see, all this is things that I want to be in my book, that is like Through the Eyes of a Cat, seeing the world as through the eyes of a cat, the Soda Chronicles, where Soda is actually looking out the window at this plastic alien. She sits in the truck, we leave the air conditioning on, and then we go in and do our thing. So we start to find these places. We find these places when we're over the road. I find, when I'm on the Great Salt Flats in Utah, again, like very sleep deprived, standing there and feeling, oh my God, there's mummies here somewhere. There's mummies were buried. Why am I getting a connection between Egypt and Utah? Well, then as I start to research that and listen to people like David Hatcher Childress, the the waters weren't a barrier; they were a way of travel. And even in little what they called Little Egypt, which is off the Mississippi River in southern Illinois, they found Egyptian artifacts. And Joseph Smith from the Latter-day Saints was highly obsessed with mummies and Egyptian artifacts. So that's how my paranormal unfolding began, kind of also like going to a place like Manassas. Okay, I didn't know where we were in Virginia. We went there to and these aren't in any certain order, they're just randomly coming in. We are going to a Starbucks. We want to go to Barnes and Noble and Starbucks, because back then, brick and mortar stores, people weren't ordering on Amazon, things like that. I was actually trying to get the Lost Book of Enki. I did find it. I'll tell you that afterwards, because after listening to like Art Bell and George Norrie on Coast to Coast, we were big Art Bell, George Norrie fans, because we would listen to them to keep us awake in the middle of the night on XM radio. So
Right.
that's what kept us going. So here we are at a Barnes and Noble, getting our coffee. Decide, oh, it's really pretty behind this Barnes and Noble. Let's just go ahead and take a walk. Why not? We find some hiking trails, then don't even know where we are, and then find out where we are after I was standing on a grave, like a mass grave. It was like this round area that looked like just like round. I said, oh my God, I told my husband, Ron, feels like a bunch of dead bodies were buried here. Well, we go back into the Barnes and Noble, and guess what? Ron opens a book and turns to the very page of the Battle of Manassas. I mean, we did find out that we were in Manassas National Park, but we went in through the back side. We didn't know. So these are the kind of experiences that we have. So I would say we happened upon paranormal things, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. And then we knew where they were. And then it fit into a contextual, like map of what my learning was, which my skill sets were, and how these were going to be used later, like when I went to Puerto Rico, when I went to France, when I went to Ireland, and when I went to other places to do grid work, when I knew what I was going to be clearing and doing ahead of time. But back
Yeah,
then I didn't
and
have any idea.
yeah, and what's interesting is like, you say like the Battle of Manassas, and a lot of people may be sitting there going, what's the Battle of Manassas? Because it was also known as the first and second Battle of Bull Run. And
Right.
people
Yeah.
will recognize that name and go, oh. And so, yeah, I find it kind of funny in a way where you can have two people talking about the same thing, but they're calling it, one's calling it by its official name, the other's calling it by the nickname it got, and they don't realize they're talking about the same thing. And you're like, you are, and they're like, oh, well, that's cool.
That's because I remember things more, not from the scientific book terminology, but from going there. That's how I remember more, because I'd have to make notes to even remember that it was the Battle of Bull Run, because I don't remember. But I do remember reading about certain things later, especially when, I was going to put together this grid work and Charleston, South Carolina, that didn't really happen because I'm actually right now I'm stationed. Here I have to say the word like because I feel like I am. I'm stationed in Edisto Island right now between two military bases. I'm between the Air Force, which shares that base with the commercial airport, and to the south of me, not far as a crow flies, is the it's called now I forget what it's called. Well, the town is Beaufort. It's called Paris Island, and it's the Marine base.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And I felt that energy in the water, the sonic. I see Tiffany's in the audience. Say hi to
Mm.
Tiffany. Say hi to Wizard Whitticus. I saw those two because I do see the names pop up. And
And
Julia
Julia.
Interhaven. Yeah. So, yeah.
And so I'm kind of curious, a little bit of, when you're doing the paranormal, you call yourself a paranormal historian. And I love that because that's one of my little side project passions too, is putting, history to the events and, tying stories together that way. And I'm just kind of curious, when you got into the paranormal, was the history of it alongside it, or did that come later to where you were like, hey, I need to tell the history of this place, not just that it's haunted?
Yes, that probably came later. That was an evolving thing, but also I recently, well, until recently, I was doing something called the Biltmore Village Mystery Tour, which is part of Joshua P. Warren's Haunted Asheville. If you know who he is, he's a regular on Coast to Coast, has his own podcast, but been a good friend for years because I'm from Western North Carolina, so that's where we met and things like that. But when I started doing that, I mean, even before that, the history became important because I'd learned the history of a place that I went, and then I would see how the history would sort of correlate with why uh, the place was haunted or certain thing. Like, I'll give an example. One of the stories I tell, like with Gettysburg, I've never physically been to Gettysburg, but we have to look at why do people get photography on night vision of soldiers walking through a field, and you could still see that imprint of the soldier walking, because I look at it as it's like a groove in a record. It's a record album, and it's like a skip in the record, and that thing plays over and over again in the timeline because there's so much trauma, and trauma breeds a holographic memory, I feel, in the area that it is. So the reason for, like, with my Biltmore Village Mystery Tour, one reason I have not been able to do them again is because of the devastation of Hurricane Helene. Hurricane Helene, originally part of the trauma in that tour in the Biltmore area, which was, part of the Biltmore estate. George Vanderbilt, who built the Biltmore estate in 1895, I think it was completed. I have to actually look at my dates again. But his lawyer, Samuel Reed, actually owned that property first, like the 22 acres that's the Biltmore, that's not on Biltmore property, that they call Biltmore Village, where my tour was, that has, restaurants now. There's a place called the Appalachian, what do you call it? Crafters Guild, that actually was the old Otine Bank building that an infamous man named William Dudley Pelley, who was a Nazi, was in. So these are the stories that I tell. I show him Samuel Reed's house. I show him all these old buildings, and even not far from, Reed Street is a place that was haunted, that was actually Samuel Reed's house, and has underground tunnels, and people can hear the kids playing and things like that. So that, and there was a devastating hurricane, a couple of hurricanes in the late 1800s, early 1900s, that where the French Broad River and the Catawba River and the Swananoa River raised like 50 to 70 feet in places, right? So it wiped out a bunch of people. Well, now with Helene, what came to me is those ghost stories, because it would have been 108 years since the last like reset in 2024, because Helene came through. I think it was September. I don't know, remember the exact date, because I wasn't there. I was actually removed and back in Edisto. I was actually in the land of hurricanes here when a hurricane hit, instead of being in Western North Carolina. So we know that was actually weaponized. But yeah, it was around September 24th when Hurricane Helene went and devastated that whole area. It even changed the way the rivers flow. The rivers are not the same. The landscape's not the same. It's made it more dry, humid, because it's even removed some of the topsoil. That's my theory. So I can't even tell those stories anymore, because those ghosts that were in that timeline, I mean, they've moved on, because now it's president and with the new stories that have to be told. So if I ever did that tour again, I would actually call it the aftermath of Helene. I mean, for years, some of the restaurants weren't open. They actually rebuilt the McDonald's. I don't think the Moe's is open yet, or the Asian place, my Indian restaurant that I really love called Andaz, that's gone. They changed it, and there's just still a lot of things that have not even recovered in that Biltmore Village, and it would even flood when it wasn't. I mean, the way it's built, it's kind of low. So if it would rain a lot, oh, and it's starting to rain here now. I've been praying for rain. I've been doing a rain dance, and we're getting it right now. So we're doing this show. I would do a tour, say on a Saturday night, and then maybe on a Monday, if it got rain, that whole Biltmore Village would be flooded.
Wow. And I looked up the Biltmore to see, because you were wanting to check when it was built and everything, and I found the 175,000 square foot masterpiece home was opened on Christmas Eve in 1895.
So I was right. I think I said 1895. Christmas Eve, I forgot
Yeah.
that. I remember that the patriarch of the Biltmore died on Halloween a couple years ago. I thought that was interesting. Cecil.
Yeah.
He passed away on Halloween. Yeah. And there's a Halloween room, and I know a lot of people have had, find themselves in the Biltmore in their dream state.
Yeah. And
Something about 33rd parallel. I'm
uh,
closer to the 33rd parallel now. That's the 37th, I think, parallel, Western North Carolina, I think.
I think you're right. And she was responding to Julia, was asking, I want to know where you both recommend for a community paranormal cryptid UFO meetup.
Hmm. I don't
Well,
know.
that's kind of a tough question, Julia, because I'm in Texas area, and so I know a few places here, but I don't know the East Coast that well, and
Do you know anything?
so
Do you know anything about the Marfa lights?
I do actually.
How far are you from there?
I am actually. Let's see. I think last time I looked, it's a 7 hour drive from me.
Okay, so where are you? What town are you in?
I'm near Dallas, so I'm like an hour, hour and a half, like probably like an hour, hour and a half from Oklahoma.
Okay.
3 hour, 3.5 hours from Louisiana is my little triangulation spot. And then Marfa is down actually closer to Mexico, so it's like I got to
Oh,
traverse the entire uh pla central state to get to there. And so yeah, but they're hey, Gina's in the house. Her
hey,
ears
Gene.
must have been burning.
Well, we have something called the Brown Mountain Lights, which is in the Linville Gorge area, which also was. Oh, thank you, Tiffany. Oh, we were yes planning a typical skeptic meetup. I think Western North Carolina would be a great area. I mean, I know the whole everything in Western North Carolina. Asheville, go east from Asheville and then west. So I know, a lot of things. But what I was going to
Yeah.
say is, James Rink and I were supposed to do an event uh, for the Brown Mountain Lights, but it never happened because of Helene. We were talking about planning something like that. But where
Yeah.
that is in the Linville Gorge, and it's off the Blue Ridge Parkway, and we like to go to a place called Wiseman's View to go see it. And we've
Yeah.
seen some bizarre things there. Uh, Many years ago with Joshua Shapiro and his beloved before she passed away. We happened to be there. And even with the naked eye, we were seeing plasma ships with the rainbow colors around it. And we were trying to get the night vision goggles hooked up with the camera and this and that. It was so cold. My husband's like, my hands are numb. I can't do this. But we were seeing this, and it changed my reality as far as what are UFOs, because I saw this thing actually dissolve into what's called Humpback Mountain. It actually just like dissolved right into the mountain. And I
Wow.
know where the roads are up there too, because you can tell what's a car, you can tell what's a campfire. This footage was actually used by I know Joshua used it on his camera. The other Joshua, it had been featured on Weird or What with William Shatner. I showed some of it in the movie called I Saw the Light uh, that I was in. So yeah, this footage was some great footage. It's not easy to get good footage of anything, and now it can be faked. But that was back in 2009. So
Right.
people weren't faking things. And the other weird things that I saw up there is when I had Google Map on my phone, I would look at a star and then it would start moving. I would think, oh, stars are not supposed to move, but I'm looking at it says it's Spica or Spica, which is in the constellation of Virgo, and this thing starts moving, and stars don't move. So if I wasn't convinced at that time, one time when I was in my hot tub, when I was in Fletcher, I was sitting in the hot tub, just me, no night vision, looking up at the Great Dipper, which means the bear. It's the big bear. There's the big
Yeah.
bear and the little bear. And
Ursa
four of
Major.
Ursa Major, right. Thank you. Ursa Major and Ursa Minor. I'm looking up, and four of those stars are just gone. Gone. Like, what? How is that possible? What? You kidding me? What the? And I get my phone out, and everything on my map is screwed up, like Polaris and where it is. And I said, this must have been some paranormal event because this doesn't happen. And then that changed my mind to what we're looking at. Stars may not be just fixed objects in the sky. What are, oh, and then if I wasn't convinced then, if that didn't convince me, before this house was built like 5 years ago, we were in Walterboro staying at a hotel, a Baymont, and we got back there. It was so hot, summertime, miserable, humidity. I want to be in the pool. I want to be in the pool so I can be cool. And it was a crescent moon. And one night the crescent is one way, the other night it's the other way. And I'm like, how does that happen? And that's around the same time people are getting pictures of two moons, two suns, all this stuff, talking about Mandela effects. Why do we have a white sun now instead of a yellow sun? Yada, yada, yada.
It's very true, and we are jumping timelines, and there, uh, we think about as we're jumping timelines, just noticing like you're saying, a few Mandela effects, like the sun. We don't. And we only look at really what we are experiencing here. We don't really pay attention to what's happening to the stars and everything out there because, I mean, we could be like, we're in a timeline now where we have a white sun. Well, we used to
Right.
have a yellow sun. Or, heaven forbids we end up with a red sun, at some point jumping. But I often, though, also have to wonder because science tells us stars are light that, the source of is gone. So we just haven't seen them burn out yet. And so, like you're saying, three of the stars of the Big Dipper just disappeared. Did we jump to a timeline that was further in the future where those had shown being burned out? And it's like, but how would we even prove that? And one of the things that confuses me all the time is the moon,
The moon.
because it'll be up during the day, which boggles my mind because it was always the night star. The sun was the day star. Now they're both in the day. Or you'll just have the sun and the moon is gone, but then the next day it's back, and it's like, what was so unique about this one day in between that the moon disappeared?
Right. Or you see just like a little sliver of the moon or a piece of the moon during the day and it looks fake. It doesn't look real. It looks like somebody just put it there. Doesn't it look that?
Yeah.
What is Whitaker saying? Things are not.
Things are not what they appear to be, even common things.
I agree with
Yeah.
that. I agree with that. And back to the question of where do we meet up? So I was talking about this area of Western North Carolina. So I have two things that I, I know the areas pretty well. The area surrounding, Mount Mitchell, and actually there's a place near there which is an observatory now that I found out that people can go up there and do a sky watch, and you're allowed to do it, and it's a dark sky. It's very difficult, and they have a planetarium and stuff like that. It's very difficult to find a really dark sky anymore without light pollution. It's almost nearly impossible. So, there's that area of Linville where the caverns are, the Brown Mountain Lights, Linville Gorge, which is beautiful hiking. And then there's also in the Pisgah Forest, which is where the Pisgah Astronomical Research Institute is, which is called Perry. And my husband made a delivery there, and there was some weird stuff going on there where a guy thought he saw like a UFO around the size of a Volkswagen or something like that. We went up there,
Right.
the weather was terrible, and we didn't actually see anything. But what we did see is that there's seismic activity under the ground, and that at that time there was a tunnel that we went in. So, and then I started having dreams of underground bases and all kinds of things after going in that tunnel. It's like the first time going in that tunnel, memories came back. We went there a couple times, but the other time when I brought uh, Joshua and his wife Lauren there, that's P. Warren, they didn't let us go in there, and they made a big. I'm like, can we go in the tunnel? And they made a big hoopla, like we don't allow people to go in there anymore. And I'm like, oh, well, what's going on with that? Isn't that interesting? This
Yeah.
place is like a leftover outcropping from the Cold War, and it also ties in with the Judaculla rock and Judaculla the giant story that I tell, because where it is, it's off of, you would take Highway 215, which goes down from the Blue Ridge Parkway, or you can take 276, which goes through Waynesville, goes through Brevard, and go up the Parkway, and goes, and 276 goes past a very famous waterfall called Looking Glass Falls. The fish hatcheries there. There's another place called the Pink Beds, which is not far from the First Forestry School. And the First Forestry School actually ties into the Biltmore because George Vanderbilt brought a man named Robert Schenck from Germany to start the first forestry school because they did a lot of logging. And if you were to take a horseback ride from the Biltmore to the Cradle Forestry, as it's called, I couldn't remember the name. That would take you about 7 hours on horseback, and that is not a ride my rear end would want to take on a horse.
No, very true. Yeah.
And one year
Um.
we went to a thing on Halloween for that where they did reenactments with pumpkins. There was like the forestry school had students, and it was about Tommy, the drama of Tommy something. I don't know if it was Hodges or Tommy something. And the farmer was out upset because this guy was going to run off with his daughter, and he gets out with his shotgun. They make this whole fun thing. I don't think they do it anymore, but it's like we do this night hike, and everybody's dressed up in like period costume, like from the 1800s with the pumpkins. And it was so fun when we used to do stuff like that. So
Oh
all
yeah.
these areas. But my husband at one time was obsessed with looking for Bigfoot or Sasquatch. He's like, I think we need to go into. He's sitting right here listening to me. He doesn't want to do it anymore because he saw a dog man. But we thought, oh, we'd take we'd pack a lunch or a dinner or whatever. We just go out in the woods, and I always got the feeling, unless you've got a minimum of 6 people, maybe more than 12. I would never go to the base of Devil's Courthouse, not because I'm worried about Sasquatch, but because I'm worried about humans and other things, like when David Paulides talks about the missing 411 and how things go bump in the night and disappear. Okay?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of taking a different approach to when she's asking for a location. Is I'm kind of looking at a place that maybe like
Just to
in
get together, not a
middle
territory.
for, yeah, but just to be in the middle of, where everybody could go. And like one thing that jumped in my mind, and I was like, I wonder why it jumped in my mind, was Shiloh. It's not because it's a Civil War battle, but it's because it's in an area where I feel like it'd take me maybe a day, day and a half to drive there. The East Coast may take a day, day and a half to drive there. And so it'd be like central to where there's a lot of places you could stay the night and head back. Or, Mississippi, I was thinking, well, is there somewhere in Mississippi? Because that could be in the middle, a middle point.
Oh, I'll tell you what's a neat area we went when we were on the road was a place called it's probably too far for you, and this is what we were going to do on James Rink's tour. I talked about this because I was supposed to originally do that tour, do night vision with. He actually thought maybe you could drive the bus, and I was like, I don't know about that. But that tour that James and Renetta and Rob and Brad Olson and other people were supposed to do. There's a place called the Firewater Bed and Breakfast, which is in Truth or Consequences, New Mexico. That was really, really cool. That has like the water piped in. So it's not, I think it's like an hour, probably 2 hours from El Paso, but El Paso is probably pretty
Yeah.
far north for you. I don't know how far that is. Smoky Mountains, that's where I am, Tiffany. I mean, Appalachia. The Smoky Mountains are more Tennessee, which is like the Gatlinburg area, and that's neat. That area,
Yeah.
there's caves over there. There's in the eastern part of Tennessee and western North Carolina. You've got that Forbidden Caverns. I actually have to go to. I haven't even been there yet, but we like to do the aquarium when we go to Gatlinburg. We love the.
Yeah.
Oh, she loves the.
Gatlinburg. Isn't Gatlinburg where Dollywood is?
Dollywood is in Pigeon Forge,
Oh, okay. Because
which
I
isn't far.
remember, yeah, I remember going to Dollywood, but then I remember seeing Gatlinburg too. And so I feel like they were, like you're saying, they're pretty close. So it's like I could have easily confused both cities. But yeah, I've been to Gatlinburg. It's a really
Hmm.
cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I like Gatlinburg better than Pigeon Forge. Pigeon Forge is not walking friendly. It's everything's
No,
spread out and more modern, and you have to drive to it. To me, it's like Las Vegas without the casinos.
right.
Kind of. That's what it feels like energetically. I mean, there is
Eh,
a cool Titanic museum and things. There's different stuff there, and it's fun. But yeah, I
well,
like
and one
Gatlinburg.
of yeah, and one of the things I like to do is like if we were to meet in Gatlinburg, I'd be like, if we, did like 3 days, you could take a day and go to Pigeon Fork and run around, see like the Titanic Museum, or go do this, go do that, go back to Gatlinburg, and then the next day you could go to another spot. I like to pick a central spot and then tangent out and then be like, this is home base. We're going back to home
Oh
base.
yeah, yeah. Even in Western North Carolina, you'd have to do that. Like in the Asheville area, you'd have to stay somewhere around Asheville. Yeah, because everything's kind of spread out, and it is a lot of driving. But yeah, the
Yeah.
Gatlinburg area, and then there's a lot of different areas. So many possibilities.
Yeah. Hey, Christy's in the house.
Hey, Christy. Yeah, where she is pretty neat too because she's not far from Hot Springs, Arkansas, which was that place was very powerful. Going to Hot
Yeah.
Springs, Arkansas, that was really cool with the water there. I found just the town so interesting, and what I really loved, they had a Zoltar in the middle of the town, and that thing, I mean, it made me think I need to buy a Zoltar machine and put it like in Gatlinburg or somewhere because I think it would make a killing.
Oh yeah. And I personally would be all for going and hanging out, in Christie's area because one, I like going to Native American places, but two, it's like I said, it's like an hour and a half north, and I'm in Oklahoma, and so it's like I could easily be there and be like spend a day there and be like, yeah, and still go home and have the comfort of my home and then drive back out to meet everyone. But I probably would stay with everybody because that's putting a lot of gas and mileage on a car for no
Right.
reason. But
Yeah.
I had that option, and I like options.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I'm trying to remember what was the thing in Oklahoma. I'm trying. I know that I saw some interesting things in Oklahoma, but I can't remember what they were
Yeah,
now. I
and
remember there was actually a junk food uh, burrito place that I liked. I mean, it was better than junk food. I mean, it wasn't Taco Time. Taco Time was the one they made these vegetarian burritos. This was in Wyoming, and they put sunflower seeds. It wasn't Del Taco, but Christy, if you know what I'm talking about, drop it in the comments. The Mexican place that's like a Moe's. We have what's called Moe's, like Welcome to Moe's, or there's Chipotle. Yeah,
yeah,
that's the one that
we have
we
Chipotle, but I am seriously, I could cry right now because I have been to Broken Bow like seven, eight
oh wow.
times doing investigations. And if Christy was in that area, I'm like, oh my God, I could have, like, we could have hung out several times over because it's like a 3 hour drive for me to get to Broken Bow. And I'm like, ah, I was there. We could have hung out, and I didn't know. And it's like I could kick myself for not asking, where, I'm in this area and checking in.
I never went there. I'm trying to remember where was the whole Bonnie and Clyde thing. Was that Oklahoma or is that somewhere else? I'm trying
That's
to remember.
Louisiana.
That's Louisiana.
And
What?
I finally got there last year in April. I went to the Bonnie and Clyde Ambush Museum and the actual spot. But
Okay, I'm trying to remember. There was something that stands out about, or was it Kansas? Ron, do you know what I'm thinking of? Where was that stuff that had that like I don't know, all those figures that were really tall, and it had like the old like soda fountains, and it was like a pharmacy, but it wasn't a pharmacy, and it wasn't Bonnie and Clyde, but it was somebody else like that. Come on, think of the name. Maybe it wasn't even Oklahoma. Maybe it was another state. Oh my God. See, this is what I'm still trying to do is download all these memories. I got to get all my pictures out that are real pictures that were before, the digital cameras. Actually, some of my digital cameras that have my SD cards with a lot of pictures, those are just gone. It's sad because my cat Soda was like snowboarding. It's not like
Yeah.
snowboarding on like a thing that a cat could do it on, not a real snowboard, but like it was like a sled thing that kind of looked like a snowboard, and she would just do stuff like that. She was great at
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
But it's interesting you're talking about like those statues because I recently went on a day trip to Bowie and St. Joe, which are small towns near where I live. And I had been to St. Joe once before, but when we were driving there, a friend of mine was, nice enough to drive. And we pull over, and I'm like, "What is this?" He goes, "Look at the field." And I look out, and there's like five little um, Beetles, old cars, the Volkswagen Beetles,
Oh
and
wow.
a bunch of like art, and it's just randomly placed out in this field. And I was like, "This is so cool." And so I'm taking all these photos, and then I realize the whole land is designed for artists to put their art in, and I'm like, that is so cool. And I love finding spots like that, and going because we live in a world where it's like all we see is concrete and houses, and to go and see open land is one thing, but to see open land with like art that blends into it is really cool. And so yeah, I mean, that's part of the thing that I love too is stopping off at little places along the way. And so I'm notorious if I'm hosting a paranormal event, and I know this is going to sound horrible, but I am notorious for arriving late because I will stop at cemeteries along the way and do little like mini walk around, check out what's there, make videos, maybe do some recordings. And I'm like, yeah, I should be focused on, people are waiting on me and expecting me. And I was like, yeah, I'm sorry. I can't help it. It's like, I just got to do it. But
You know what comes to me? The word Casa Taco. Maybe that's it. Dodge City. Where is that?
Dodge City is up, I think, in the north by the Dakotas, I think.
Oh, is it? God, I'm not remembering where this place was. Okay. Yeah, there's so many. There's so
Let
many
me
of these
see.
places.
I think
I don't
Dodge.
want to. I don't want to go to leave my screen unless I get my phone, which
Oh. Oh, actually, I stand corrected. Dodge City is in Kansas.
that's it. Okay, so there's something about I think Bonnie and Clyde might have been there. Dodge City, there's something extra weird going on there. I'll tell you another place that was kind of a weird place that we went to was called Hannibal, Missouri, which is the Mark Twain Museum was there. Sam Clemens. And what was weird about that place is the wax figures looked like they were coming to life. They looked like they were breathing. Like maybe people created their own tulpas and these wax figures looked alive. There's just something creepy and paranormal about that whole town. It was really a cool town, but that
Yeah.
museum's more.
They do say that Bonnie and Clyde operated in Kansas, and so there could be. Oh, in Hugoton is a Bonnie and Clyde grill,
Okay.
which
Well, there's a lot of these
is.
places we went to. We just happened upon found a lot of places like this. We went to Graceland. We didn't know. about Graceland, which is probably really not that far from you because that's Memphis and there's a giant pyramid there. That's interesting because going to looking at Elvis's grave, it feels like Elvis is alive, even though I'm convinced it's more of an egregore that people have created. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of cool ghost town stuff. Yeah, a
Yeah,
lot of
we do.
yeah.
And Christy was talking about Hachatown, which is right next to Broken Bow,
Okay,
and got great food there too.
oh, that's great. Yeah.
But
Yeah, going west was so cool, really cool. We have some friends that have a museum too called Castle Dome Museum. It's an old mining museum town in Yuma, Arizona. It's like they put together that whole museum.
Tiffany's saying she's bringing her
Oh,
karaoke machine.
okay. I'm all about that. I do a lot of karaoke, and I got my guitar in the corner here, over here. See, so yeah.
Well, I will totally confess that you will not see me up on the karaoke stage because I have been noted as probably one of the only few people to ever be in a church choir and asked to leave the choir.
Oh my God,
I
really?
actually got kicked out of church choir.
Okay.
So that tells you how good my voice is.
Tiffany and I can get up and do a duet.
I'm good with harmony, but I'm not good with solos.
Okay.
Oh yeah, Tiffany saw your cat.
Yeah, that's our Thor. He's sleeping. He's having it rough. See that? It's a rough life. Being a cat. It's rough. He's totally spoiled.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, well,
I've
find a place. I mean, I'm game for anywhere could be a good possibility.
yeah.
You know?
I mean, the unfortunate thing is with picking a place in Texas, it's like or in the South that's central to like where we are. That's great for us, but anybody like Canada or the Northwest or the Northeast, they're like, we're out. That's too far to drive. And so there's always going to be
Yeah.
someone who's going to say I can't because it's too far to drive. And so you're going to have people not being able to make it. So I would say, Julia, what you got to do is if you're looking, you may need to look at doing regional sleepover parties because like I can tell you going to Alaska, I'm not driving to Alaska. That's like 3-4 days just to get there, and that's too much time to drive. But going to Mississippi, that's like I can be in Mississippi in a day, and so that's not a big deal. But that's what I mean by because our country, the continental U.S., is so large that there's inevitably you're going to find people who, if you're wanting to come, are going to say that's too far to drive, and we're not going to be able to find a central location for everyone.
Right. Yeah, I know what you mean. I always thought cruises were great too because I used to work on cruises. I did night vision on cruises, and the last cruise that I did, I actually went down to the Keys and I saw Robert the Haunted Doll. This is a replica of Robert.
Uh-huh.
I thought this would be a
I did
great.
that.
You saw Robert the Haunted
Yep.
Doll in
And the
Fort
Keys.
East Fort Martello Museum. Yeah,
Yep.
and he showed me a lot of things that were way beyond Haunted Doll. I mean, it was like a for me. It was like a holographic memory of looking at because it was right before the whole Iran war that we went there, and he was like showing me the rise of the Industrial Revolution and like World War I and World War II, and then he was sort of upset that kids are just playing with their cell phones and not playing with toys anymore. And I was kind of getting that he was like a guardian gatekeeper of where Stargate 2 from the Gulf of America, Mexico, and Stargate 3, the Bermuda Triangle energies dissolve into each other. Because he's right
Yep.
at that point there. It was kind of very interesting. It was pretty cool. I didn't have any negative experiences, and he said, if you have fear, that's what you're going to get. So if somebody is fearful, they're going to have an experience that, they're going to manifest fearful things, and if not, and you believe it's good, then it's good. So it was great. And what was cool about this is because on the Margaritaville cruise, you could actually have a thing where you could go see Robert as one thing, and then there's another tour you could do where you could go to Fort Charlotte in the Bahamas, which is connects in for me with my Bermuda Triangle work, that connects into what I did in Puerto Rico, as well as the whole thing with Charleston. Because actually, with Charleston, I was putting together, it was going to be boots on the ground grid work going to Fort Sumter, where the first shots of the Civil War were fired, and ending up
Yeah.
in the Provost dungeon, where they signed the Declaration of the Declaration of Independence was ratified there, and then they also housed a bunch of people that were patriots there, and the first liquor store in the country is right next to it. Tavern on Rainbow Road, which I feel was holding something to do with the spirit of Al Ghul and algorithm, as well as reverse rainbow codes. So yeah, that would have been fun for that to happen. James was interested in doing something with that too. It didn't happen.
Yeah,
So
that does sound cool because I've been to Florida. I've done a lot of cruises, and I think it would be interesting to see if a cruise line would even post like to go like secret space program, you know, type cruise where it's everything's that. It's like I wonder if they would even give that a thought, or if they would be like, nope, that's too far. But they'll accept a paranormal cruise because I've started seeing those popping up.
yeah, I
Is
did. Yeah, I did one called Conspiracy, SEA, and Laura Eisenhower was on that. That was way back, and a bunch of other people. Daniel Brinkley, I think, was on that one, and Joshua P. Warren, and some of the people that were also into like the GMO. I know Sherry Tenpenny was on that, and I did a few other ones with Divine Travels, like Cruise into Spirit, whatever. But I don't know. I mean, I don't know why they would care. Maybe just come up with a different kind of fun name. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
maybe not SSP, but some other name for it. It's unfortunate now that in Charleston, Carnival used to go out of Charleston, but they sold the port, so nothing goes out of there now. And I don't know why. I thought that would be good for tourism in Charleston, but for some reason, the people that own those condos and that land there don't want a port. But then I heard a rumor that a smaller ship like Margaritaville may be going in there in a couple of years. I don't know. That ship now, the one that was called the Carnival Sunshine, actually goes out of Norfolk, Virginia.
yeah. Well, Carnival, last I heard, and I've been hearing a lot lately, is they're having hard times with their reputation because they're the party ship. They're the everybody who wants to be like in their teenage 20s. That's the ship to go on, and it's like, yeah, a lot of people have kind of upped their style level. And they're like, yeah, I'm not interested in a every like half hour wet t-shirt contest anymore. And so that kind of killed Carnival because that was like their niche. They were the party ship.
Yeah, well, their entertainment is better than most of the other ones. So if you do like music, they have actually really good musicians. So we did enjoy that because we love music, but nothing about wet t-shirt, none of that kind of stuff. Everything was very tasteful with what we experienced. I never had any issues with
Yeah.
that. So, but it
Tiffany.
might also be where it goes from, and maybe because it left from Charleston, that could be too. Who knows?
Well, that could be
Maybe if it
because,
went out of Fort Lauderdale or Miami, it might be exactly that.
yeah, because that's where I was getting my reports were from Fort Lauderdale. People saying, yeah, they would
Oh yeah.
all hours of the night even be blaring, hey, wet t-shirt contest
Oh no,
coming in
thanks.
soon. And I'm like, what? I'm like, you woke me up for that? What?
Not
I'm
for me.
like, yeah,
No. That's
yeah.
exactly.
And I was like, I told my parents, I'm like, I have never stepped foot on a Carnival ship for that reason. I'm like, nope, I've done Holland America and Princess and Royal Caribbean, and those are the three lines that I'm familiar with.
When we did the cruises with Susan Shumsky and Divine, it was called Legendary World and Divine Travels. It was Royal Caribbean and Princess is who we went on.
Yeah.
And I would love to go on Viking too. That would be neat because their shore excursions are kind of included in a lot of things. So that would be really
Yeah. And
Oh yeah, there is that. Yeah,
yeah. And actually,
that sounds
Tiffany,
neat.
I
Yeah.
that sparked an idea of getting everyone together and going on like the Lido deck or the very top deck, get a lounge chair and just gaze at the stars all night at sea. That would be amazing because you'll definitely won't get light flooding in.
There is and I did the night. See, I have third generation night vision equipment, and I took people. And one time, because there was a hurricane, we actually had to skirt the shore and be near Guantanamo Bay, and that's where I saw this one mothership type of craft, which I think is military, actually giving birth, I say, to three other craft that shot out the other end of it at once in a formation. So, yeah,
Yeah.
you know that's what it was. And
And
when I was in the bathroom, because I had to use it when I was there, and Ron was working with the night vision, one lady said she saw a bunch of orbs, orange orbs through my night vision, but I didn't see that.
yeah,
Yeah, we were communicating with lightning and doing all this kind of stuff, like talking to lightning. It's like we would say something and the lightning would echo us off in the distance, and we were doing all this weird stuff. It was very interesting. It was a great time.
yeah, it sounds like it. And talking about hurricanes, it reminds me that when Hurricane Sandy hit, the tail end of it in the Atlantic, I was on a cruise ship and we sailed right through the tail. And
Oh my God.
that was the most fun I've ever had on a ship because you'd be sitting there and you could see the sky, and then all of a suddenly it would be like all water, and then it would be back to some of the sky. And it was like, oh man, that was so cool. And the waves would be like crashing up to like the sixth deck, which is really high, and you're like, oh, I'm glad I'm inside.
Did you get sick at all, or did anybody get sick?
There were some people getting sick, but I didn't. But when I was on the one Princess cruise ship I was on, they let somebody on that was sick, and the whole ship, the whole week was quarantined, and everybody had to stay in their rooms, or
Oh,
you had to wear
oh, that does
gloves to
sound
go out
bad.
and
Oh,
about. And I was like,
oh.
yeah, we were like, this was our one and only experience with Princess. And I will say, to me, the funny thing is the highlight of that cruise was you could turn the TV on and you could watch 24/7 Love Boat because that was the ship that was used, and I was like, that
Oh
was their
yeah.
claim to fame. And so I was like,
I was
well,
on
you know,
that
I get
ship too. I've been on that
yeah.
ship too. Yeah.
So yeah, it's funny, but the Royal Caribbean, when I was on that one, my ex girlfriend, she I think I embarrassed her because I had never been on one, and I'm used to promenades where there's a hallway and everything. And I walk up, and I'm like, my jaw drops, and I'm like, this promenade is 3 stories high, and it's like a city street being put inside a ship. I'm like, what in the world? And she was like, "What?" I'm like, "You have no idea. This is not what I have ever seen before." And so, yeah. Oh, I remember going to Senior Frogs
Oh
in
yeah, Senior
Cabo.
Frogs, right? Yeah, I went to Cabo. Yes, yeah. I went there mainly for Wi-Fi. That's why I went there because you don't have any Wi-Fi on the ship unless you buy it. So if you
Yeah.
go somewhere like the last time we just went to Starbucks to get Wi-Fi. But you know, Rob is interested in New Orleans. I know Tiffany is in San Antonio, so I'm just trying to think. Christy is in Oklahoma. You're near Dallas. Is that the I-20, I-35 corridor? Is that what that is?
No, that's the well, for Christy,
For you, I
Tiffany, and
mean.
I, it would be yes,
For
but
you, it's
to
I-20, right? You're off
yeah,
I-20. Yeah.
I-20 and I-30, yeah, we're around those two. But New Orleans, we would have to go down to I-10, and
That's I-10. That's right. Yep. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
so I want to take a sidestep for a second
Yeah.
because we do have a project that we're working on, and I do believe Julia has mentioned it. Is you have some memories of the SSP, and we've kind of hinted
Yes.
around it. So, what? How did your memories get triggered, and what do you remember? If you
Okay,
can share.
well, originally, the first triggering of my memories is when I went to that place called Perry, the Pisgah Astronomical Research Institute, and I also think something about meeting Laura Eisenhower in 2012 when I worked the what was it called? The Star Knowledge Conference. And even before that, because Laura was actually a guest on Speaking of Strange, which was Joshua P. Warren's podcast at the time out of Asheville. And when I heard her voice, I said, I know her. And then I actually found her in the energetic synthesis community, Lisa Renee's community at the time. I knew she was in there. But I started having these dreams and my funk. And then there's some other things that I can't necessarily disclose on here right now because family members are involved in this timeline in certain things, like military and, working
Right.
for stuff like that. But, and stuff with my father that went on. But I just started having memories that I was in underground bases and I didn't know if I was having things done to me, if I was just watching it, if my consciousness was being pulled out of my body, because I didn't understand about that they can clone any part of you, that they can extract your consciousness and clone you, that they can take you through a window or take your astral body. You can be asleep. It doesn't have to be your physical body, and they can reanimate you somewhere else. I didn't understand all this stuff, but I know that as a baby, I had my eggs taken. I'm not going to say how or what. I don't want to get gross. When I was 10 years old, it happened again. I was actually in Oklahoma. I have memories of something coming through the window, and my menses started like at 10 or 11 years old the next day in a really bad way after being on an Air Force base because my dad has a cousin on an Air Force base, and Christy knows the name of that base, and I can't remember the name of it. So I had all these pieces and parts, and it was really even lately when and seeing certain shows like Altered Carbon and uh, I'm trying to think, even like Spider-Man. Like I remember Spider-Man and seeing the black goo, or just a bunch of Twilight Zone. It could be anything with show. Oh, Tinker Air Force Base. You know, just all these pieces and parts where they disclosed it. And I had a guy on my old show because I had a channel that I started in 2012 for Star Knowledge. My mission was, I heard, do the radio show now. What are you doing? Okay. Uh, do the radio show now, and I'm like, how do I do the radio show? Well, I learned how to do blog talk. It's like my guidance came in, taught me, and I had a show on Blog Talk Radio, and I had to just interview everybody. I had to interview everybody that was be at the conference. It was like, it was Laura Eisenhower, it was Grandma Chandra, it was Blue Star Eagle, it was Chief Golden Light Eagle, just everybody I knew. It was August Worley with his paradigm instrument. And then it started being a lot of other people, like I had Peter Moon on my show. I had Tim Beckley that's on my show that disappeared. Just all these different people into paranormal and, the Romanian Sphinx. Peter Moon, if you don't know him, he wrote the Montauk books because I knew, I will say this, my father was involved with Montauk somehow. I'll say that much. He's from Long Island. So, and he didn't have memories, and I was getting the memories of what he was going through before he actually went through them. But when I interviewed this guy Og Telez, okay, and I actually sent these interviews to Julia, and I'll send them to everybody else. It's just I couldn't. I don't know how to upload stuff to my channel. I need a technical person. Anybody want to reach out and help me with technical stuff so I can get my book written, I can get all this stuff done. But he was sharing things about cloning. It's interesting that he even brought up Orphan Black before I knew about it, because I just listened to this show the other day. But yeah, it was just like these weird coming memories. And what I had a memory of the other day, something after watching Tiffany and hearing Tiffany's voice, a memory flashed of me as a dolphin and remembering exactly what happened. I wasn't necessarily a dolphin, I was a human, but they extracted my consciousness somehow, put it into a dolphin body to have me go around remote viewing and doing things underwater as far as the underwater sea program. And I've always known about that they've weaponized dolphins, and I felt sorry for them, because when I think I might have been in this program was over probably about 25 years ago, is when I was actually in the Keys. I had swam with the dolphins. I slipped, fell, hit my head on some algae after the dolphins were talking to me, and that started to shut down at that time a lot of bleed throughs of different other things that were going on with me that were SSP related, because I started knowing things then, and it's like I was not allowed to know. So many times I would be on a trajectory and it would get shut down, and it was activated again after James Rink passed. When James passed, about a week later, I had a dream about him coming to me as a female and sharing that one of his clone bodies was actually female, and it was like to bring balance to the force type of a thing. I can't remember exactly, but he had wanted me to. He spent a long time interviewing me. I don't know. He interviewed me in like at midnight for about 2 hours after we had come back from the Appalachian Starseed reunion. You know, I was doing night vision there, and we had a place with, Barry Littleton was, shared the house that we were in. We were in an Airbnb. James was not staying with us, but decided to stay with us because he slept on the couch. So it was me and Donna in one room, some other ladies, and then Barry had the other side. So James said, I just want to interview you. And we talked about everything, but I don't know what happened to that interview. I mean, he had the lights shining on me and everything's all very professional the way he did it, but I don't know what happened to it. And he was trying to get those SSP memories out of me, but I couldn't actually bring them forth, and I couldn't embrace all of it because I didn't want to be branded as that. You know, I'm thinking, oh, I'm a
Right.
paranormal historian, grid worker, but it wasn't until I actually feel okay with this that things are actually clicking for me. I mean, that's not enough to just be a grid worker. I mean, there's something missing or lacking, and why I couldn't, I don't know. I don't know what it is, but
Yeah. So
at
Christy came.
last, I became obsessed with SSP. It's like right after he wanted me to be looking at it, and he would try to talk about it with me, and I'd want to talk about Harry Potter or flowers or whatever.
Harry Potter. That's funny.
Oh, James loved Harry Potter. He was
Oh, I know. So,
yeah, he was obsessed with Harry Potter. So I just didn't. I wanted to be more on that kind of side of it. I was afraid. I was very afraid. Yeah, I know Christy can help. She's great. I love
yeah.
Christy. She's another great. Yes, Project Seagate. Yes, I think because Renetta, and it's interesting too, and the Gulf of Mexico. James Tiburon talked about how there was pyramids in the Gulf of Mexico, and Ashiana Dean actually talks about the gravitron machine there. Okay, and I
Yeah.
did do the in 2014, I think it was. I went down for Greg Prescott's Rising Atlantis with Andrew Bardis. I was connected to them. Actually, I think Andrew Bardis might have even been on my show. James lived in alternative. Yes, at Hogwarts. I love that.
Yeah, and
Yeah, so yeah, I went to the Gulf a few times, but recently last year when I was down in, I went by Mar-a-Lago. So that cruise that I go on, the Margaritaville cruise, actually is as a crow flies, it's like 5 minutes from Mar-a-Lago. And
oh wow,
Mar-a-Lago, I got the hit that they temporarily moved Stargate 2 because it's dark flowering to Mar-a-Lago.
that makes sense. And talking about the Gulf, I remember seeing something on TikTok for a little while where, as the Gulf of Mexico, we were getting several hurricanes that would come through. And when the name got officially changed to the Gulf of America, somebody, was commenting, has anyone heard of a hurricane lately in that area? And it's like, I had to think about it, and I was like, no, actually, I haven't. And it's like, I can't help now but think, since it became Gulf of America, did the weather wars be
Change.
forced to cease to exist there? And so the hurricanes are not as frequent, and it's like,
Yeah, let's see what
it
happens
lines
this
up.
year with El Nino La Nina thing, because the last one that I remember that went through was Milton, which was right after Helene. And it's interesting that Helene happened because, James lived in Charlotte. And in the town of Charlotte, there's a place called Albemarle, which is heavily invested in lithium mines. And Douglas Emhoff, who is Camel Toe's husband, actually has invested in that, and the whole area that got hit, which was Chimney Rock, Lake Lure, and over towards Charlotte, which I'm trying to remember the names of those areas. Tryon, Sapphire, is it Tryon? I don't know. A lot of that area, Chimney Rock and Lake Lure, that area was devastated. I mean, completely
Yeah.
leveled and really in bad shape.
I
Yeah.
heard it was targeting like some of the dumbs in the area, and it was just unfortunate that there were the trajectory put it over civilians, and they were like, it was like, you just can't. There has to be some civilians that are unfortunately going to, be caught in the crosshairs because of the location. And so I think somebody was looking at the map and going, well, if it came in from this way, it would have been a whole lot worse. If it came in this way, they couldn't just, hide it as well. And it would look more like this is being manipulated because it's too far from the water, this trajectory or this trajectory. So it's like the path that it took was the only one that made sense and had the least amount of casualty possibility. And so I was like, wow, that's a lot of thought to it. And I have to say, though, too, is, in watching the hurricanes lately, since we now know about HARP and the weather wars, when you watch them, they don't. None of them have been actually following a national progression. Where like it
That's
goes like
right.
this, and then it's like, oh no, we're gonna go this way. Oh no, we're gonna go this way. Oh no, we're gonna go back to this. It's like, where is it getting this energy, and who's driving this thing? Because it looks like it's being driven, not just going.
Yeah, well, they declared North Carolina a national state of emergency before it even went through there. It's something about it was connected with Helen of Troy, and then there was another Helene that was so many years earlier. But back to there's something you said that made me think, oh, dumbs, and I got to circle back around to the original question. When I met Mary Joyce years ago, because at this talk that I went to at the Hendersonville courthouse, Mary Joyce from Skyships Over Cashiers was there, who wrote the Cherokee Little People and the about books about underground bases. I actually met Eve Lorgan there, and there was a woman that pointed at me and said, "I know you from the Mars program," and she put me into an instant PTSD. Like, what that's weird. Like, single me out and just point at me and say that. And she actually triggered PTSD in me that it took quite a few years to heal it. And I couldn't figure out why. But and then there was another guy that I met. He called himself Captain K. And I've recently contacted these people, and they have no memory of this. I mean, she remembers her because I think this one lady, she's integrated a lot of her SSP stuff, and now she's shut that door. You know, it's like the whole Project Oblivion or whatever. She's just like done with it. She probably doesn't want to
Yeah.
go public about that stuff anymore. But this other guy was telling me, he said, I was like his commander flying a ship. Like I was way above him. I was his, in a white suit, I think. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know, you know, what solar ward. I can't remember yet who's what's New Waffen and, you know, all these places, except that there is a place that I've been to all the time in my dreams. And I don't know if this is in Norway or it's like Antarctica, but it's like a brick, solid, white installation with like pane windows that are like this thick, and it's like built into the side of a mountain. And I've been to this place regularly, and it's on the ocean, but it's a cold environment and the waves crash against it.
Yeah, that sounds familiar, and it's I'm kind of laughing when you're just talking about Nachtwaffen and Solar Ward, and I'm like, I can tell you what those are, and because I've researched them, being told I'm a part of or have memory attached to, and so it's like yeah, and so that's um the project that Julie and I are starting up is doing panel shows where people can come on and ask like, oh, what is this program, or how do you know this or this about this, and it's like we share our journey into unlocking our memories, and we're newly at it. I mean, I can say I've been doing it for 3 years, but I haven't been actively looking at memories until now because my situation has changed. I feel like now's the time to engage and start to go looking, but it's we're creating in our mind and our hope and intention a safe place for people who are beginning their journey as well to get a strong foundation and get a strong understanding of what this means, and they can either go further or decide to stop there, and that's totally fine. But we're wanting to create a voice for the people who a lot of times we see don't get a voice because everybody will say, well, you don't have memory, so come talk to us when you have a memory. It's like, well, that how do you get a memory if you have no one to talk to about it? So it's like, yeah, that's our goal, is to be a safe place to help people discover, what they can about themselves, or you know, you may have a memory of, say, of like, you say the thick paned glass on the side of a mountain with waves crashing up. Tiffany may, be in the group, and I'm just being hypothetical here, and go, yeah, I remember. And then there was this room, and both of you may start talking and be like, oh my God, here this memory fully unfolds. That's what we're wanting to do.
I feel
Not,
Tiffany was my trainer when I was in this dolphin program. She was actually the one that was helping me get my consciousness back in my body and the dolphin's consciousness back in its body. Or I don't know if we were sharing a consciousness. I don't understand that. This comes to me too, because this is really I feel like this might be a physical place in our timeline. I don't know if these are like physical places in our timeline now, the past, the future, I don't know. But before drones became popular, I was dreaming about the place where they met, where they made drones. And for some reason, I was getting that there was a place not far from either Langley, Virginia, or somewhere in like Maryland. Like, and I would see this place and I would go because it was sort of Appalachian looking. It was on the East Coast. I get there, but I was going to this place regularly in my dreams. I would end up in this same place, and there was like all different size drones, from the size of bugs to like Lockheed Martin type big craft. I'm like,
Yeah.
what is this about? Why am
Well,
I?
and yeah, and so a funny story about that is, how, she could have been is, and Christy, if you want to chime in about it, you can. But Christy and I were talking one day on a show, and we started talking about zero G combat training. And I was like, I remember that. And I remember doing this. And she's like, yeah. And we started like bouncing off of each other, like going, what would happen through this training. And so that's what Julie and I are hoping to bring for everybody else that, is wanting to learn is, yeah, a safe space to bounce these ideas and be like, does this make sense to someone? And somebody freely can say yes. And I remember this. Oh, well, did you, remember this part? Yeah. Okay. And you start remembering things. And she says it's weird because I was blocked from working with the dolphins when I would be at the Navy's Animal Research Lab. It was Army and Navy. Oh, Tiffany. Yeah. That makes
Yeah,
sense,
that
though.
gives me chills when she says that. I mean, but you know what's weird is the person that I am now. I wanted to dive. I took the life saving course. I couldn't. I mean, I used to be able to hold my breath well because I used to surf and I used to get pounded, and there was many times I almost drowned. But I could never equalize. I have problems in a plane with my ears flying, and I can't equalize to dive because I wanted to get my dive certificate. I wanted to be able
Yeah.
to get, dive with tanks, and I was not allowed to do it. I was not allowed. What is she saying? I
Yeah.
could.
Chrissy says, I can see that Missy's consciousness was in a dolphin and her clone aspect in stasis. Tiffany could return the fractal to the main consciousness in stasis.
That's the way of saying it exactly. Oh, chills. Yes, that's it. That's it.
Yeah. And so, I mean, yeah, and we all go through different things, and we may have, crossed paths here and there before going off and doing what we were being programmed to do. And so, yeah, and one of the things that's kind of funny is for me is when I was a kid, I could swim underwater, and I could swim underwater really well. I even trained myself to breathe a little bit underwater in fresh water, not the salt water. That makes my stomach sick, ingesting salt water. But now I have a deal to where if I get my head underwater, my ears will start to clog and wax builds up and I can't hear, and I gotta clean it all out and do ear
Me.
candling. And it's like, huh. And so I try to think about, what changed. And I'm like, apparently it's to where, yeah, when I started learning too much about what I can do, they were taking that away. And one of my memories that I got back, a partial memory about, was I was in a hot tub and I put my head under the water and I cupped my hands over my ears to try and keep the water out, like that would actually happen. But it actually, I didn't get, my ears so clogged up and afterwards. So it might have done something. But yeah, I got a partial memory and I put it in my book, and it was like kind of funny because I was like, I didn't do anything to set an intention or anything. I just dunked my head in the water. Like, I was like, I don't know why I'm putting my head in the water, but I am. And boom, I was off in a memory. And I was like, where is this memory? This has nothing to do with me. And I was like talking with Christy and some other people about it. And they're like, write it down. This is an SSP memory. I was like, oh. And so it started to open.
Who was it on Rob's show that said he was in the Navy in a submarine? I think this was Rob's show, and the guy said he got to the point where he could tell where he was just by the sound of being in that submarine, even if he couldn't see. He knew exactly where he was, like the whole echolocation was. Do you know who that is? It was
I
on his
don't
show.
know offhand, but
Yeah,
I've heard of that, of sonar operators, like their hearing has to be so precise that they could hear like beyond the walls, and Tiffany's saying she doesn't remember either, but yeah, I mean, when you think about it, sonar, they have to listen to distinguish biologic from artificial. What is the artificial?
yeah.
To tell you, is it a battleship? Is it a destroyer? Is it a cruiser? Is it a submarine? What is it? And I make the joke, I love the joke that they make in the movie Down Periscope where they got the crazy guy doing the sonar and he goes, "Oh, the Orlando's a buzz. How do you know?" "Well, somebody just dropped 35 cents." "Well, how do you know?" "Well, it was a quarter and a dime." And I'm like, how the hell could you determine that from the sound? But that is their job. They have to be that precise to know if somebody dropped a quarter, that's a
Uh huh.
quarter.
Wow.
And so, I mean, it's fun, we laugh, and we joke, we poke fun at, the way they did it, but that's a real skill. And so it wouldn't surprise me being on a submarine, that somebody could start to tell that because their hearing is being altered and conditioned in such a way.
Yeah, when I was first in South Carolina, I felt like there was things in the that would wake me up at night. You know, after the whole January 6th incident,
Yeah.
we would hear the and see like the F-16s or F-22s. I'm not sure which one's which, but there would be a lot of military action going up and down, back and forth here, and it was in the water too because I would be woken up in the middle of the night and I would feel that there was like just whatever they were doing. I could almost hear it, feel it, where I was like almost in the water too, even though I wasn't in the water at that time. I don't notice that lately. I've been having, right now, I'm having a lot of black hole sleep and having no memory at all. Maybe it's for healing, which I need.
Well, and it could also be I have a deal where I go and I get picked off and I do missions at night still at times and I'll wake up and have no memory of it. And I was asking one of my alters, like, why don't I have memory? Why can't I recall memory like everybody else? And they go, well, one is because you are in such a project that for your safety and the safety of the operators, you can't disclose it. So it's kept from your
Oh,
memory so you don't blab it out and put people at risk by mistake. And I was like, I respect that. That's a good thing. And another was, he goes, if you were able to remember everything you did and everywhere you went, your mind could not hold all of that data. You would go, your brain would break in essence because of all the data. And I was like, yeah, I don't want that either. And then like the third was, it's like they're like, well, and I always hated this answer when I got it, even from metaphysical, is when you're ready, it'll unlock. And I'm like, I hated that answer because I'm like, I'm asking now. I'm ready now. So why
ready
isn't that
to unlock.
unlocked now? Because obviously I'm ready. I'm thinking about it. And they're like, nope, no, you're not. I'm like, so why don't we change it to when, instead of saying when you're ready, it's when you guys are ready to give me the memory, I'll remember. Because that, I'm like, that's at least I don't get upset with myself thinking, yeah, why am I not ready when it's on my brain? So obviously I should be ready.
You know what? Og, when I was listening to him, said that we wonder how we give consent, and I think this is what he was saying when I remember listening to the old show that I did, is if you get out of your bed at night and you just decide to follow the little green man or whoever's walking away, to abduct you, you decide to actually, instead of saying no, I'm not going anywhere, that's how we get, by being curious, that's how we give consent. That's what he
Yeah,
said.
yeah, or
Because they only go to the psychic people that are the, I mean, not that everybody doesn't have some psychic capability, but they're the ones that are more open to, like, and more curious. That's who they go to.
yeah, and have more skills. And by skills, I mean like I have a werewolf altar, and I've been able to wolf out, is what I call it, and utilize it. And I'm like, and came to find out it's not even one that was naturally mine. It came from a program, and it's like, huh, I'm able to jack into a altar that's not really mine, but operates by me. That's kind of interesting that I can wake it up and bring it to existence without orders, so to speak. And so I'm looking into why that's happening.
Yeah, and I have a flying program where I can fly, but I'm like, it's like hovering, in my physical body. I don't know if it's like Marvel, maybe it's like, Iron Man. I don't know. It's not even
Yeah,
a suit, though. I feel like it's just in me, and I'm just able to do it where I'm like, I start doing ballet or something, and then I start twirling, and I'm up, and then I'm sideways, and then I'm this. Wolf out. I love that. Yeah.
yeah,
It's all that. Yeah.
yeah. And the one thing I will say about the programs, they are designed to keep us individualized and separate. And the downfall about it is they had no idea that we would remember stuff by talking with each other here. And so that's why it's unraveling, I think, is because like Christy, Tiffany, you and I, talking about it now, it's like, wait a minute, this was never supposed to happen. We're not supposed to know about this to be talking about it. And so it's fracturing the programs, and that's why more people are starting to remember, is because, oh, people are talking about it. And I'll be honest, I'm pausing a little bit, not because of what we're talking about. I'm hearing different voices in my headphones, and I'm trying to figure out if it's an echo of me or somebody else having a conversation. But I am hearing a whole nother voice,
Oh, that's strange.
kind of
Yeah.
staticky, in my headphones. And so I'm wondering if it's other people can hear it too.
and and sometimes I've questioned, is this a whole psychological operation? Is it just info wars? Is it psychological warfare? Because what, it's consciousness warfare. I mean, because the consciousness creates these altars and the bodies, because if supposedly the bodies aren't real, I mean, we're real in the fact that we're in an avatar body because we cut ourselves and we bleed, so we think are real, but this is like virtual reality in the matrix, like we're Neo and we're watching it, and because we're so involved in it, it feels very real. I mean, is it like that? Is that how these programs are? I mean, they sure are invested in showing us all this stuff. And one that my husband watched was called Dark. I couldn't watch that, but it's interesting. The shows that I have watched, even the one about Native Americans, I can't remember what it was called right now. It's going to take me a minute to think about it. There's always like this nuclear reactive component, and the three shows that I watch, there's always something to do with some nuclear device, like with that Dark, this other one. Oh, Tiffany knows about Dark. Okay, I know that takes place in Germany. What was the other one? with that cop. Does anybody know? It was a Native American cop, and his son was killed, and it takes place in the Southwest. It was on Netflix. God, I can't remember the name of it right now. Sometimes this happens. I just can't
Uh,
remember.
it sounds really familiar, but then I don't know if I'm confusing it with another show because I know my mother watched Longmire, and I know there's a Native American cop in that, but
Oh,
Sitting
Sitting
Bull,
Bull, Christie. Yeah, no, that's a real documentary. I watched that. Now,
yeah,
this is something else. Maybe Google this if you can. Native American cop show, Wind. Is it something called Wind something on Netflix where his son he was killed by this nuclear. I don't know. It was just
Dark
weird.
Winds.
Dark Winds. Yeah, yeah, that's it. Yep. I knew it had the
That
word
is
wind in
actually
it.
on my list to watch. I
Yeah.
haven't started it yet. Oh,
And that's
Tiffany
got
got
some
it.
paranormal elements in it too. Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
but to answer your question, why TV shows like that's allowed is to bypass our free will to give consent. If they
Right,
put it in TV or in movies and we watch it, that's giving consent. And so that's how they're bypassing our free will and our, when we say, I never gave consent, it's like, did you watch the show? You gave your consent.
right.
And they use little tricks like that they don't need us to verbally say yes. And so, but they have to make it public in a way so that they can say, hey, we informed the public we were going to do this and nobody said no because it was like a number one show. So America gave consent. It's like America didn't know what it was giving consent to, but it doesn't matter. That's the legalese way around it. And so that's why you see it in shows and movies is because they put it in such a way that people will give consent without knowing they're giving consent.
And it starts with Disney movies when kids are little. I mean, the parents just the Disney Channel's like a babysitter for kids. That's got some really bad stuff in it, a lot of the Disney stuff, you know, for kids. It's not for kids.
No, that's true. And I I have stopped subscribing to Disney Plus
Oh yeah.
because of that, and it kind of sucks because I love the Marvel and the Star Wars, but I'm like not enough to give support to Disney.
Well, you know what? When I go stay with my friend and watch her cats, I know they have Disney because I think they have Hulu. So I want to watch Loki on that, and then I tried to watch The Mandalorian, but I couldn't really get into it. There's too many episodes to before I was going to see Baby Yoda, so I just couldn't do it. You know,
Yeah, and just so
I
you
love Baby
know,
Yoda.
yeah, I said that in a Star Wars group, and I got kicked out of that group because his name is not Baby Yoda. It's Grogu, and they are very particular about that in the Star Wars community. I was like, I'm sorry. I didn't even really get a chance to say, I'm sorry, my bad.
Oh my God, that's crazy.
But yeah, they are, yeah, you don't mess around with those groups. And it's like, wow, I thought I was bad just being, watching everything and over and over and over, but not like that.
Well, how's everybody doing in the chat? Do they have any questions about anything?
I think they've been just going along with everything, and they were saying they hear the echo that I've been hearing the whole time, and it seems to be quiet right now, but I'm kind of curious. For me, it's gotten quiet. Is it quiet for everybody listening now? Because I changed one setting, so I'm curious it sounds like every once in a while something's trying to come through, but it's not really coming through.
Yeah, I don't hear anything over here. Everything's clear for the first time. It's like clear signal, and I'm not hearing any echo or anything.
Well, so what I did was I went into your settings for your mic and I turned on the echo cancellation and to reduce background noise. And so I'm wondering if that changed anything or if it's still the same, and I'm just now not noticing it, but kind of interesting, and kind of wish I had said something earlier because we could have investigated it sooner, but I was just thinking, nah, and then I was like, wait, this is too frequent. It's like total conversation while I'm trying to talk at the same time. It's like I'm competing with my own ears.
Yeah,
It almost sounds like music now.
really. Well, I hear music in my head all the time. I'm one of these people that wakes up with a song and I'll hear the same song for weeks at a time. Then I'll shift to another song. So I know there's a meaning in it. You know, like I
Yeah.
remember recently it was The Who, Don't Get Fooled Again. Like that's a
At
good
least
one.
it's a good song.
Or at one time it was before doing a show with Rob, it was Freedom of Choice by Devo. You know, a lot of times it has to do with what's going on collectively, is why I have these certain songs that go on.
Yeah.
Right now it was
Well,
Ben because of the hantavirus. I started having this obsession with rats with the hantavirus thing.
yeah. And yeah, don't even get me started on those fake demics because,
Oh, I know.
oh, those, yeah.
Plandemic,
Tiffany is saying,
Plandemics.
yep. She goes, that Tiffany says that happens with me. I wake up hearing music and songs that aren't in this reality too.
Yeah. Yep.
And I actually did channeling sessions this month and was talking with some beings and we were talking about music, and I found it interesting that jovial mantis beings that were talking with us were like, we really like banjo music, and I was like, that threw me because I was like, banjo, that's what you're picking as your instrument? That is so cool and weird at the same time. And the last one we were talking to, they had a nice long title, but they're like, just call us lizard people because we're from Gaia. And I'm like, oh, piano. But they play it in a 16 key chord where we play our music in a 12 key chord. And I was like,
Wow.
that's kind of cool. And so starting to learn some more little factoids about all these races that we talk about, but I don't think we ever really get to know. And like the ant people and the jovial mantis are like big in parties. They love to party, and it's like some are eating synthetic food now that they replicate, and it's like, huh. It's I'm learning a lot of things that I never thought to even ask about, and now that we started it, I'm like, I want to ask everybody now that comes in, what's your music like? What's your what's your party status? Yes,
It's
no.
It sounds like the bar scene in Star Wars.
Yeah, but I
I remember what
mean,
movie that was, that the bar scene in that, which Star Wars movie? Can't remember.
it was A New Hope. But
Okay.
oh, we have a question from Root Vegetable.
Oh,
They're they're asking, would it be ethical for me to get into a romantic relationship, or would their seed be poisonous to me? We need context. What are you talking about? A relationship? Are you talking about with an ET, or are you talking about a hybrid? What are we talking about, Root Vegetable? Oh, with the Sasquatch. Um,
Can you take the smell? That's the first thing.
I actually, it's I love that you're asking this, root vegetable, because I was talking with someone and they were like, Sasquatch is who we are hybrided from and created the human being from, was spliced from a Sasquatch. So we're actually genetically related to them. So I would say if you can find one and you guys have that connection, go for it. But I'm also though gonna say, don't be that weird, awkward person that's gonna go around and say like, I married Sasquatch and have no photos, and then be like, I'm divorcing Sasquatch and having a baby, like that lady, was it in Australia, who married the ghost pirate? And it was like, what in the world is this? So I would say if you're doing a relationship with the Sasquatch, treat it like you would any other relationship. Don't make it public domain. No, we all don't need to know who's dating who and all that, because I kind of like my personal life being private, and I respect the privacy of my guests, and so I would have to say, yeah, that's going to be my stance on it. But would their seed be poisonous? No, I don't think so. I don't think they would ever put something harmful in us that would cause us harm. What do you think, Missy?
Uh, I don't think I even want to go there on this. I mean, I can neither confirm nor deny. I'm going to plead the fifth on this, but I am going to share a story of I've never seen a Sasquatch, but I heard one. And it's interesting because it came after a day of I mean, I really heard one after a day of being just physically obsessed with it because I was coming back from Harrah's Casino in Cherokee, and I was going through the town of Maggie Valley. And in Maggie Valley, there was this blanket, which was a picture of Bob Weir from the Grateful Dead with the body of a Sasquatch. And I really wanted this blanket. So I went in there. They didn't because I love the Grateful Dead. They didn't
Yeah.
have, and I love Sasquatch. They didn't have this blanket for sale. They only had the one that was hanging up. And that night, because it was going into my mother's birthday, my mother was her birthday was October 12th, and this was the October 11th. It was in the middle of the night going into her birthday. I had the window open slightly, and I heard like this intense ringing in my ears, and then I heard this thing that sounded like water singing a cry and like ooh, oh, yeah, yeah, like this weird. I can't even describe it, but it was like it whatever it was doing was to open the portal. It was like talking to me, like it would be like I recorded the sound of what I thought it sounded like, and I might have to go back and actually listen to that sound because I have memory of it, but I had better memory of it after I first heard it. And it did it like 7 or 8 times. And I said, oh my God, that was Sasquatch. It was nothing like I'd ever heard ever. And I know another friend who's actually the biological connection to Arthur because her cat Rosie and Mystery is the father of my cat Arthur. She's seen the rocks on top of her roof, and people see the trees that do this. So yeah.
Yeah. I was on a skywatching adventure in Arkansas once, and I had a crystal appear out of thin air right behind me and fall on this wooden stage. And I also was starting to notice things moving when there's no wind, or not even wind strong enough because of where these were placed to move anything. And it would be like one out of three things would be moving, the other things weren't. And so I was like, that even made it more curious. to me, but I could hear sounds like you're saying in almost like voices, but not really voices in the forest area. And I would be like, "Is that your neighbors?" And they're like, "Oh, our neighbors could throw a rave and we would never know it. They're that far away." And I was like, "So who's talking?" And they go, "We don't hear anyone talking." I'm like, "Somebody's out there talking." And so it's like you're saying, I never saw them per se in physical form, but I did hear.
Oh, here's some crystal from Arkansas. That was when I went to Arkansas. That's a crystal.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that neat? And then I've got some crystal skulls. You know, we were talking about the moon before in honor of Artemis too. This is Artemis,
Aw.
and this is a
Is that
planet.
red jasper?
No, that is hematite, which is
Oh, okay.
quartz and hematite together actually makes it this color.
That's really cool.
Yep. This one I couldn't remember its name earlier. I remembered it's Bodhisattva.
I've heard Bodhisattva before, but not in reference to a skull, so that's pretty cool.
And this one is Kuan Yin.
Aw.
Yep. I just felt the crystal skulls need to come out today. And this one is Aurora Labyrinth. That's all I have for right now. This is a labradorite.
Wow.
Got a bunch.
I met Max, and
Me
that
too.
was an experience.
Yeah, me too, because Max lives in Texas, I think still, right? Does Joanne Parks still live in Texas? She did.
I'm not sure if she still is, but I know she was touring around for a while, so I don't know if they ended up moving or what. I kind of lost touch with them, but every once in a while I'll see like another crystal skull will pop up, and I'm like, oh yeah, it's getting close to that time, or yeah. And I mean, it's really interesting because they're like, when you sit down with it, they're like, don't touch it. Don't, you have certain rules that you have to follow. And it's like, yeah, whatever. But then it's like, when you're done, you're like, oh, I'm so glad I followed those rules.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, we're actually, wow, approaching 2 hours. I normally
Yeah,
do
this
an
has been
hour and a
great.
half.
Yeah, this
So
has been great. And I got a show with Rob tonight, so that's at 9.
very cool. I have a show at 8 with Nikki Gerard. That'll be fun. And so, where can people find you?
They can find me. Let's see. They can email me at Hill night NITE vision VISION at gmail.com. Hillnitevision at gmail.com. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I'm on X. I don't do anything there, but I'm there. I have a thing called Carolina Felina. I'm yeah, and no NITE
Oh,
NIT
whoops.
not NIGHT because GoDaddy didn't have that. I don't have that website anymore, but I just have HILLNITE vision VISION at gmail.com. And I have my channel, Missy Hill at Galactic Earth Fusion on YouTube. That's my old show name that was on Blog Talk Radio. Is yeah, that's right. It was Galactic Earth Fusion, and that's it. People just find me if they're meant to find me.
Well, and also, I will shamelessly plug on your behalf. You can get tickets available through Gina's Buy Me a Coffee
Yep.
for June 13th Summer Daze Conference, where Julia will be a speaker, Missy will be a speaker. I will be a moderator, so I get to play Julia's role for a day. So wish me luck with that, and we will see
Arthur.
you all shortly. And have a wonderful day, everyone. And thank you. And Missy, I'd like to deliver a message for you from me, and that is from my heart and the heart of my shows to you. Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for sharing your story and your experiences.
Thank you so much for having me too. This has been great. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yes, and so be
We
sure
got
to
to make
like.
that trip happen. Let's. What a long, strange trip it's been. We got to make that trip happen.
Oh, yeah, I love road trips. Definitely got to find a way to make that happen and find a place where we can all be like, ooh, kind of. Even if
Yeah.
it, going into a hot spring. God, could you imagine doing what we do in a hot spring, talking to everybody? How
Oh yeah.
relaxing that would be.
Yep.
But then again, it's like, yeah, probably not the best thing to have in a touristy hot spring area because people would probably freak out over mentioning some of the stuff we mentioned.
Hot
So,
Springs, North Carolina actually has hot springs too, but they've monetized. It's not cheap to go there. I mean, I know one thing about Hot Springs, Arkansas. You can at least go fill up and drink the water for free there. You know, they have the
right,
things everywhere in the town where you can fill your bottles up and drink that water.
right. Yeah. So we'll work on that for you, Julia, and we'll toss ideas around. And oh yeah, are you going to be joining Julia and my panel on Sunday, Missy?
Yes, I thought it was Saturday. Is it Sunday? He's crazy. Look at him. How nuts this. He's nuts.
Uh,
Huh. Ouch. I thought it was 11 o'clock Saturday night. 11 p.m. Eastern Saturday night. That's what I thought. I could be wrong. It's
you could be
her
right, actually.
Sunday. It's her Sunday. That's true. It
Yeah,
would be her Sunday. That that's early for her, isn't it? What is it like?
she's 6 hours ahead of me, so she's 5 hours ahead of Eastern time. So when
Four
she
in the
does,
morning. 4 in the morning for her. Oh my
well,
god.
it could be 11 o'clock her time at night, which would be back it up to being like 6 or 7, I think, our time.
Maybe that's it. I don't know. I put a yes for whatever time that was, but I can't tell you what it was. You
Yeah,
guys do it again and we'll figure it out. Is it going to be Sunday or Saturday? I'm in for whenever it is.
I have to look at
Now
the
that I
group
got
chat to
cool
be
internet,
honest.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, I gotta take a look because I got so many things up in the air right now. It's like I could be thinking a different show is doing something on Sunday and ours is on Saturday, so I'll have to look it up. Well, I guess I could look it up now. Let me see. Since I'll message you off air because that's not for
Sounds good.
everybody.
Yep.
And
You got
or
another one, and I'm going to make dinner now before the next thing. And I got
yeah,
some research to do for a little bit of stuff that I got to look up for tonight's show because some of it's current events stuff that I need to look up.
yeah.
So a little of that stuff.
Oh yeah, I was about to say Tiffany can tell us what it is, and she's asking us to remind. So I'll get with Julia and find out for sure, and I'll message both of yous when and where.
Sounds
So have a wonderful evening and rest of the day, and enjoy your weekend. And I will see you all soon. And with
good.
that, I'm gonna say good night, everyone.
Night.